In this edition of the Bucs Report, the Bucs take on the Lions. Do they have what it takes to go 4-1? I'll discuss next on this edition of the Bucs Report. Let's go. Well, hello and welcome into this edition of the Bucs Report. I'm so glad you decided to join me today. As always, this podcast is free and available on all the major platforms. My name is Dan Holme. You can find me on Twitter. It's at DanCaps218. You can find the show online. It's bucksreport.com. Today's episode is brought to you by Manscaped. Take 20% off plus free shipping when you use my promo code MinuteCast at manscaped.com. We're also brought to you by SeatGeek. Take $20 off your first ticket purchase when you use my promo code TALKNATS. That's promo code TALKNATS for $20 off your first ticket purchase at SeatGeek.com. Yes, that works for Bucs tickets. It works for music, comedy, theater, whatever. Save $20 at SeatGeek.com. We're also streaming on 102.9 The Game. In today's episode of the Bucs Report, we talk about your Tampa Bay Buccaneers as they take on the Detroit Lions in a creamsicle game. Seems like I've been waiting this for the longest time. We'll talk about that in the show. Then we'll talk about who's in and who's out. A little bit later, we will talk about the huge role that Tristan Wirfs has on this team and what to expect from Baker Mayfield. But just to get it going here, we will talk about the injuries and who is in and who is out. That seems to factor in quite a bit who's going to be out there. Bucs have Shaq Barrett limited due to illness, so could be a big game time for rookie Yaya Diaby with a larger role versus the Lions. And I like Yaya Diaby. I like what he brings to this team. Ultimately, would I rather have Shaq Barrett in there? Of course, that is a no-brainer. Bucs have Anthony Nelson to the final injury report as doubtful with a concussion. Could see rookie Marquise Watts active for the first time. And then the big news for me, I want to see a bigger sample size of Kalijah Kancey is also set to return on Sunday after missing 3 games with a calf strain. Again, what I've seen of him, I love it. Todd Bowles says wide receiver Mike Evans was full go today, and he will play on Sunday against the Lions. Now, listen, the Buccaneers have an abundance of wealth at the wide receiver position. I get that. They have Chris Godwin. They have Mike Evans, not to mention Palmer and Tompkins. They're sitting pretty good, but this team always plays that much better when Mike Evans is in the game, so I'm pretty excited about it. But some of the things that we're starting to see about Mike Evans kind of draws into questions is the time that he misses with injury. He seems to miss time almost every season with a hamstring or some sort of calf issue, something of that nature. I wonder if that is the reluctance of the Buccaneers, the Glazers, Jason Light, etc. Kind of just really makes you wonder. But with that said, I am very happy that he will be in the game again. You can't say enough good things about Mike Evans. He brings it every single game. A great guy in Tampa, a great guy in the field. What's not to love? Evans had suffered a hamstring injury at the New Orleans Saints October 1st, forcing him to miss more than 2 quarters of the game, but he was aided by the bye week in getting healthy. While not participating in Wednesday's practice, he was limited Thursday, but was a full participant Friday. So we will see Mike Evans in the game. And again, that is just putting the Bucs in a position to succeed. We know it is going to be a formidable opponent in the Detroit Lions, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. But this team is always going to do that much better with Evans out there. I don't think I'm saying anything too novel there. Rookie defensive tackle Kalijah Kancey, the Bucs' first-round pick, will return after missing 3 games with that calf injury. Like I said, Kancey had aggravated a calf strain he suffered during a training camp in the Bucs' Week 1 victory at the Viking. Bull said Kancey snaps will depend on how the game goes, so it's going to be one of those watch and see things here. But I this team is, getting itself healthy at the right time, coming off the bye week, 3-1, sitting at number one in the NFC South. Really excited. No one saw this coming. Make no mistake about it. If anyone told you, all these talking heads, that you see them on the NFL Network, and there's just a myriad of different blogs and all that online going, yeah, I kind of saw that. BS. I don't believe it for 1 second. Everyone out there panned this Buccaneers team, and who all really knew? The guys wearing the creamsicle, the ones, that are at the games, the one watching TV, they know. Let the armchair, GMs and quarterbacks that don't really know anything just kind of lob bombs in here and think they know what they're talking about. They don't know what they're talking about. No, don't get me wrong. They might still miss the playoffs. They might, not win a Super Bowl. Listen, I'm not going to etch their name on any kind of award right now. But what I am saying is this team is far exceeding expectation. No one saw the Buccaneers in this position. Everyone around the NFL laughed. They giggled at work. People are like, good luck with Baker Mayfield. And I looked at him like, thank you. He's playing rather well. Thank you very much. And it is an interesting position as Bucs fans. We are coming away from the Brady years, the 3-ring circus that came into town and all that entailed, a supermodel wife, a bunch of players that wanted to play with the great one, GOAT. But that has left. And I think that there is a chip on the shoulder of a lot of Buccaneers players that, we aren't just that. And if you listen to Devin White, he's very motivating. I love him on this team. And if you listen to my other show, the Buccaneers Minutecast, he starts off every one of my episodes because he is so motivating that's what I'm talking about. And he had a speech there that, the NFC South, everything runs through us. Make no mistake about it. The NFC runs through the Bucs. And he said it with such enthusiasm. I just felt like putting the pads on and a helmet and just playing football. I would have gotten absolutely destroyed. But in my head, I thought that was a great idea. The mind is willing, but the body is weak. But in any event, this team is doing really great. They are riding a high. But the one thing that I want them to avoid is a trap game. What I'm talking about is that, kind of taking the foot off the gas. We're sitting at top of the NFC South, and not a true trap game in the true sense of the word, just based on the fact that I think that a lot of people think that the Lions will win that. I guess what I meant in this circumstance about a trap game is that, the Buccaneers are in first place. They didn't see that coming. I really don't think they saw that coming. I think that they hoped for that, but not to take your foot off the gas. That is one of the things that Baker Mayfield spoke of, is that they had that chip on their shoulder to prove everyone, and they have proven that, but they need to keep their foot on the gas to continue to prove to people that they're all that. So I don't mean to go on a tangent here, but I'm pumped about the game that's going to be played this afternoon. It's not going to be a noon start at my time zone. It's going to be a little bit later, but I am excited about what this team is going to bring. And like I said, coming off the bye healthy, what's not to love? Starting cornerback Jamal Dean will also return following a shoulder neck injury that forced him to sit out weeks 4. A 26-9 win over the Saints that saw Carlton Davis, the team's other starting cornerback, return to game action after missing the previous 2 games with a toe injury. And the cornerback position is something that just has been the Achilles heel of this team for the longest time, or the turf toe of the team, if you will. And it just seems like no matter who is on this team, they're injured. And I know that there's been a turnstile at the cornerback position on this team. Carlton Davis has really stepped up. Jamal Dean has done really well. But you think about the other corners that have been on this team over the years, and health has always been an issue. So I'm hoping that the corners can stay healthy. That's going to be the real big thing going forward. But ultimately, I have a great feeling it's going to be a creamsicle game. I mean, take a look. This wall's painted. This is an emblem that I spent hundreds of dollars on from a guy. I am all in, and I love this. And as Bucs fans, you should be really excited. Now, don't get me wrong. This is going to be a tough test for this team. They're not going to just, nail it and sail it when it comes to this Lions team. It is going to be difficult. Do they have what it takes? Are you asking me right now? Okay, I'm going to answer your question. I do think that they have what it takes right now. There were a lot of people that kind of, does this Bucs team have it? I'm not so sure they have it. They lost to the Eagles. Listen, the Eagles are a really good team in case you haven't noticed, and you're not going to win them all. So don't, put your hat on the peg of just one loss. You lost one game to a really great team. Who cares? It happens to the best of them. This is what I want the Buccaneers to do, to play really well against formidable opponents. And who am I talking about? The Lions, because one of the things that I know for sure is that if you're going to win a Super Bowl, you have to beat some of the best teams. You're going to have to beat the Chiefs. You're going to have to beat the 49ers, some of the best teams in the NFL, if you want the ultimate prize. So some people say, well, I'm happy they're going to be playing an easy team next week. I'm not. We know that the Buccaneers are going to beat the easy teams. They should anyway. I want to see what this team has in the tank when they play some of the toughest opponents in the NFL. Then you'll get to know a little bit more about what this team has. Do they have what it takes to win a Super Bowl? Does Baker Mayfield have what it takes to stand up to some of the best quarterbacks in the league? I really think he does. And, it's kind of one of those funny things to say, because before he came to the Bucs, and again, I'll talk about Baker a little bit later in the show, is that people weren't really too high on him. If you listen to the Bucs Minutecast again, I was in on Baker Mayfield from day one. And I posted that podcast, and a lot of people said, are you crazy, Baker Mayfield? You see what he did with the Browns, and you see what he did with Carolina, and blah, blah. Yeah, I saw all of that, and I saw raw potential. I saw a quarterback on horrible football teams. I mean, let's face it, the Cleveland Browns is where a lot of great quarterbacks go to die. I don't hold that against him. But with that said, look what he did for Cleveland. Pretty impressive, if you ask me. He went to Carolina. That is a dumpster fire burning out of control. Okay, next year is going to be the great year for Carolina. Seeing is believing, and I don't see it right now. And then you saw what he did when he went out to the Rams. He had to learn the whole playbook in like 24 to 48 hours and played pretty well, all things considered. So do I think that Baker Mayfield has what it takes to hold up to some of the best quarterbacks in the NFL? Hells yeah, I do. And I'm drinking the creamsicle Kool-Aid. I think that you guys should too. It's going to be exciting. Make no mistake about it. And you guys should just be real excited about this game as well. Again, these games that aren't just, mailed in, that are super easy, that is what I like the most. All right, so coming up here after the break, we will talk about Shaq Barrett and the Bucs versus the Lions. Ultimately, do they have what it takes? I'll talk about that straight ahead. All right, welcome back into this edition of the Bucs Report. This is an adjunct podcast to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers Minutecast, and I'm so glad you guys are deciding to join me on this Sunday morning before the storm. And what's the storm I'm talking about? If you live in Florida, you are quite aware of the storm, but this is going to be a storm today against the Lions. I have a feeling that this is going to be a game that brings all sorts of physicality, and this is going to put the team through its paces to, show to everyone what they have. This is going to be a litmus test to prove what this Buccaneers team has. And they're going to have to do it, with some players that are just getting integrated back into the lineup here. So just taking a look at what the team has here. Like I said, Shaq Barrett, Pro Bowl outside Shaq Barrett, came down with an illness this week and did not practice Thursday and Friday. His status for Sunday is up in the air. So we'll see on Shaq Barrett. But Bucs versus Lions. Again, this is going to be a good one. The Bucs are a good football team at 3-1, but the Lions are 4-1, and they had some impressive wins, like the one against the Kansas City Chiefs. That said, though, Tampa Bay is going to put up a big fight, and I think they have a great passing game with Baker Mayfield. I think the jury's still out a little bit on the running game, but I think that Rachaad White showed improvement in limited roles. I think Keyshawn Vaughn looked okay, but okay and pretty good aren't going to cut it. They need to work on that. I'm not going to try to give them a pass here. Sunday brings a challenge for the offensive line, specifically as the Lions come to town with a defense that ranks 6th in yards allowed, with one of the league's top young pass rushers in Aiden Hutchinson. So it's going to be a tough test. I like tough tests. You want to know why? Because it's going to show what you're made of. Again, this isn't a game against the Browns. This isn't a game against some deplorable team. This is going to be a big one. And it's funny to say because historically, the Lions haven't been a really great team. But Todd Bowles on Aiden Hutchinson, he's a game wrecker. Bowles said he has great instincts. Obviously, he has a great pass rusher coming out, but the instincts he has in the passing game and the few times they drop him, he's outstanding. He's a heck of a competitor. Luke and Tristan Wirfs have their work cut out for them. And Tristan Wirfs, talking about a guy that has had to overcome obstacles and putting himself in an uncomfortable position, but finding a way to overcome and kill it. Now, the big thing for Tristan Wirfs, however, is are they going to be able to lock him up for the long term? And I'm going to talk about in the last segment there is these players are playing better and better and better. Tristan Wirfs has really stepped up, and they asked him to switch, and he was able to do that. Wirfs and Hutchinson have faced off before in 2019. Iowa went to Michigan and took a 10-3 loss. And while he didn't line up opposite of Wirfs the entire game, Hutchinson split 2 sacks, had 2.5 tackles for a loss, and a forced fumble in the Wolverines' win. Wirfs is a team captain for the first time this year. That's what I'm talking about. Everyone sees it. What is one of the things that Todd Bowles said is he's not going to just hand out those captain positions to anyone. They're going to have to earn it. He didn't want to say, I think that, you should be a captain, and I think that you should be. No, he wanted to see it. Seeing is believing, and I believe in Tristan Wirfs. He's a right tackles making the transition to the left side where he played only sparingly at Iowa. He overcame adversity. And, if you're not a football fan, if you haven't played football, I played junior varsity as a kid, but that's not really an accurate comparable to this. I mean, you get the lay of the land, but I mean, this is, much more difficult, but, switching sides from right to left-hand side has done really well. And, it kind of put his head up in knots where he said he even had to reach out for help because he was just so stressed out about this, that transition to the left side, but he seems to be killing it and everything is going just fine. He wasn't sure how he'd handle the transition. And that's one of the things that he spoke about, kind of, like I said, tying his head in knots. He said he even had to reach out for help. It kind of, this is this guy's bread and butter. This is what he's comfortable at. This is what he's done since probably he was learning how to walk for the first time. I imagine that Tristan Wirfs has played football for a long period of his life. So to take him out of his comfort zone was probably pretty hard. And he is playing in the NFL, the best league in the world for football. So Wirfs made the change and has killed it since making the change. He's a key piece in protecting Mayfield to give an opportunity to make a play or run it himself. So, one of the things that I'll talk about here is, I think that Mayfield is doing so well because he has an opportunity. He's a guy has a pocket and he has time to make a decision, and, one of the things that's, a knock on Brady, and there's not a lot of them, is if there wasn't someone open immediately, he was throwing the football away. And, that was one of the knocks on him was because Mike Evans was like, everyone was talking last season about why isn't Evans getting more plays? Why isn't he getting more activity? Well, the reason is because the route didn't even develop and he was already throwing the football away. So anyway, boring story later. That is what makes Baker Mayfield that much better. And one of the tools he has in his tool set that Tom Brady didn't have is he can scramble. He's slippery. He can run. However, there's one thing I got to say about that to his detriment. And again, Baker Mayfield in the next segment here is that he needs to take it easy. I, like the stiff arm thing, in Minnesota, put on some weight, son, all that kind of stuff, and that's, stuff that endears him to this team. However, there you also run the risk of getting injured, and that's my biggest concern. And I know that there's people in team Kyle Trask who would probably say, yes, this is our opportunity. No. Baker Mayfield got the Buccaneers here right now. And, not to say that Kyle Trask couldn't pick up the mantle and keep going, but we don't know that. That's conjecture. So anyway, what we want from Baker Mayfield is to run but maybe, take a dive, don't take so much heavy action. Again, he has, kind of come unscathed so far, but he did bum up his shoulder against Minnesota. Could you imagine what would happen if Mayfield got subtracted from the equation right now? This is around the same time of year that he got injured for Carolina. So I don't want to draw lines there, but I don't think that a zebra is going to change his stripes. I don't think Baker Mayfield's going to really change his style of play. But if there's one bit of advice I could give him as someone that watches this team from television at home, I shouldn't really be making assessments, but I am because I'm a podcast host, dang it, is that, he should, take it easy a little bit, maybe run for the sideline or slide like all the other ones do, because at some point his luck is going to run out. Okay, enough of my tangent on Mayfield. We have more time to get to him. What I'm going to get to next here on Wirfs is he is going to want to get paid. Back the Brinks truck up to his house, give him the checkbook, have him fill it out. I think the Bucs need to do it. Wirfs is due to get paid. He will play under his 5th-year option in 2024, making about $18 million, but will be a priority for the Bucs to extend far beyond that, likely in the range of $25 million per year. He's the first offensive lineman in team history to earn first team All-Pro honors and has already made 2 Pro Bowls. That's a hell of a resume, I got to say. And, that's one of the things that you're going to bring up to your employer. Like, yeah, maybe we'll give you a quarter raise. Oh, whoa. Take a look at my resume. Take a look at how great I played. And I think that the Buccaneers are going to have to do the right thing. I think Jason Light and ultimately the Glazers are going to have to do the right thing. But this team seems to be kind of holding tight to the purse strings. I am, slightly concerned. It's too early to push the panic button. I just want to know where it's at here. The first offensive lineman in team history to do that. Tampa Bay's offensive line has given up only 4 sacks. Only the Chiefs have done that well. So it is about these guys, these unsung heroes. It's not one of the sexy positions like I talk about. It's not the quarterback. It's not the wide receiver. It's the guys in the trenches getting it done. And they're getting it done. But make no mistake about it. In football, but in this case, the Buccaneers, they would not be playing that well if it wasn't for that. If it wasn't for these guys, if it wasn't for guys like Tristan Wirfs that have destroyed it, even though he had reservation. They just have found a way to do it, and is really, really exciting for me as a Bucs fan. And you guys should be excited as well. All right, so coming up here after the break, we will talk about Baker Mayfield, another guy that's due for a raise. Yeah, he signed a prove me deal. He signed a cheap deal. He makes less than some backup quarterbacks. Is that going to happen again? My ball says no here, so we'll talk about that straight ahead.
We're brought to you today by Manscaped, who has taken a step from Halloween to bring your face the cleanest shave it's ever seen. So this season, no need to toil and trouble. Manscaped's all-new Handyman is the best way to get rid of that stubble. Featuring a compact design and next-gen skin-safe technology, the Handyman was designed to give you that smooth finish without the mess of a traditional shave. Get the sweetest treat this Halloween by going to manscaped.com and use code MINUTECAST for 20% off plus free shipping. And for my Wolfman with a little more scruff, Manscaped's Beard Hedger Pro Kit has everything you need to tame your mane. This cordless trimmer has a rotary wheel that gives you 20 hair cutting lengths, all with one guard. So no more drawers full of extra add-on, one collecting cobwebs. That's right, your Halloween costumes may take effort, but beard grooming doesn't need to when you can get 20 different beard lengths, all with one guard. The Beard Hedger is a high-tech piece of art in a travel-size package with a long-lasting battery, universal charging, and a strong motor. There's no trick with this treat. Manscaped has you covered. Get 20% off and free shipping with code MINUTECAST at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use promo code MINUTECAST for a look as sweet as candy. Get yourself the Handyman from Manscaped.
All right, welcome back into this edition of the Bucs Report. This is an adjunct podcast to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers Minutecast. Check that out wherever you find your podcasts. All right, in this next segment here, we are going to talk about Baker Mayfield. Yes, we like to throw the praise around that this guy's doing good and that guy's doing good. Okay, that's a nice thing to say, and that's a nice thing for me to say, and some of that's true. I mean, if there was, poor players on this team, they wouldn't be doing that well, but everything runs through the quarterback. You can have the greatest tackle, you can have the greatest running back, the greatest wide receiver, but if you don't have someone that can throw the football and has a good, football IQ, your team is tanked. You take a look at some of these teams, it's going to be our year. It's going to be our year. Where I live, I hear a lot of people saying the Minnesota Vikings are going to win a Super Bowl. Every year I've heard that. My grandpa told me that 23 years ago that the Vikings were going to win a Super Bowl. Guess what? It's 2023 and they're no closer to that, And why am I drawing a comparison there is because it has all to do with your quarterback. Is Kirk Cousins going to take the Vikings to the promised land? Hell no. But it's not just Kirk Cousins, it's everyone around it. The same thing for the Bucs. If they didn't strike it rich, and that's what I'm going to go ahead and say, strike it rich by getting Baker Mayfield, it could be a totally different story right now. If it was Kyle Trask, who was the heir apparent to Tom Brady at one point, if we remember, this team could be in a far worse position. Make no mistake about it. So it is an interesting thing to think about how this team would have done, if it was Trask and, some other, grizzled old vet as a backup. I don't think they would be doing as well. But Baker Mayfield killing it. He deserves some credit. And, I think that he's a smaller man, so maybe has a little bit of a small man syndrome. But with that said, he is killing it. And I can't, cut him short for anything. Buccaneers, Baker Mayfield projected as number 1 free agent entering the 2024 NFL season. Again, to reiterate off the top of the show, the Buccaneers got him on the cheap. Why? Because everyone saw the back of his football card. He's been here. He's been there. He's been everywhere, man. But he's with the Bucs now, and he's finally found his forever home. Just like these stray puppies and cats out there that are looking for their forever home, Baker Mayfield was looking for his forever home. However, the Buccaneers are going to have to pay the man what he wants. And he's going to get the king's ransom. Make no mistake about it. He is going to get some tempting offers, probably for some teams out there that have a lot more fancy tools at their disposal, teams that have more of a pedigree of winning Super Bowls. I do 2 podcasts. You guys will have to give me a break here. So it is a difficult position for Baker Mayfield. It is a difficult position for the Bucs to be in. We want him here, that is for sure. The journeyman might have found a home in Tampa as Tom Brady's successor. The former number 1 overall pick has steadied the franchise with his efficient play and scrappy leadership skills. Fox Sports writes. So that's what I'm talking about. His leadership skills. The guy is oozing with charisma. The moment he came and did his first press conference and he said, time to bake, and the stiff arm in the first game against the Vikings, it was just, he endeared himself to the Bucs. That's my big thing. And it's, those are all nice, tertiary things. But what really endeared is what he did on the field, running that football when it was 3rd down and getting a first down. That's not something we saw too much in Brady. That's not something we saw with Winston, to be honest with you. So it is refreshing to have a whole totally different looking quarterback. A lot of that is due in part to Canales, and that's another guy. Canales is another guy, just to go off on a side tangent here as well. The Chicago Bears are already making offers for Dave Canales. Well, look at where we're at this season. We're still, relatively speaking, earlier in the season and already getting offers for head coach positions. If I was going to give Canales any advice, stay the hell away from the Bears. They're bad, and I don't see them being, real good anytime soon. But with that said, if, the Buccaneers make it to the playoffs and if they could win a Super Bowl, then I guess, I would be fine with parting ways with a mission accomplished, go out into the sunset. But I like Canales. I like Mayfield. I think it's, the perfect recipe. They're just stirring it together on top of the stove there, making sure not to burn it, and they haven't burnt it. And I don't think they should burn it. So what do we know about Mayfield? He signed a 1-year deal of a modest stature, $4 million and up to $8.5 million with incentives with a Buccaneers team that would not promise him a starting job. Hmm. Isn't that interesting, that narrative right there? I think that ultimately Baker knew. I think that he has, he's been around long enough. He had, he could just gauge the situation. I think that he ultimately knew that they were just trying to be nice to Kyle Trask. I don't really think there was any reality out there that Trask was going to get the job. I really don't. I mean, unless, Baker got injured or something, I just don't see it happening. Through 4 games, Mayfield has tallied 882 yards in the air while completing 87 of 127 passing attempts. He's thrown 7 touchdowns and only 2 interceptions. He's led an offense that struggled on the ground to a 3-1 record through 4 games as they're coming off a bye week. Bucs fans here, there is nothing more that we could have asked for from Baker Mayfield, from Canales. There was so much reservation as we came into this team, this season for this team, that people are wondering, did this team have what it takes? Does Todd Bowles, this guy that really doesn't seem like he knows what he's doing, is he the right decision as head coach? As it turns out, didn't really have a whole lot to do with Bowles, did it? I think that, all things considered, he's doing pretty good. And he's doing that, with great, again, I'm not going to diminish anyone's role. I think that Canales is killing it. All right, I'm going to go ahead and say it. But I think that Bowles is doing pretty good. There's nothing to complain about. And I know there's people out there that can find a raindrop on a sunny day, but just be happy for the moment. The Bucs are in first place. They're not backing into victory like they did towards the end of last year. These are legitimate wins, and you should all feel really happy. All right, once again, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of the Bucs Report, and I'll talk to you guys again next